Well, hello all and welcome back to the Pipe Cottage. I want to share with you a story that I've really not made public in a long time. It was public when it happened, but in light of the cancel culture that's going on in the country now, in light of Charlie Kirk's shooting, I want to share with you a story that happened in 2008, because I'm not new to this debate. This is nothing new to me. Kirk's murder, his assassination, is the next chapter in a story that began a long time ago. So in 2008, I started my master's degree program at the College of Charleston. And January, I started in the spring terms, which that starts in January. So that was January of 2008. And so I applied for a job. So I was like 22 years old. I applied for a job with the Department of Residence, Life, and Housing at the College of Charleston. And I got the job. And so what it was, I was the director of an entire building where primarily upper class students lived. There must have been 150, 200 students in that building. And so I had that job. And I noticed that within days of being hired, when I moved into the building, I noticed that there was marijuana and a whole lot of alcohol moving into the building. And so I called a meeting, which I was asked to do by the university. So the college said you have these meetings and you talk to the residences and the residents and you talk to them about basically what the university requires. And so I told them, I said, we're not going to tolerate drugs and we're not going to tolerate any kind of illegal behavior. Well, within 24 hours, I caught a gentleman using drugs and tried to get him expelled from the university, and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. But a little bit later on that same week, Obama was coming to the college to campaign, because he was elected in 2008, and he was coming to the college and he was going to be campaigning. And I didn't go to any of the events that he was doing on the campus, because I think that he was not presidential quality. I think Obama did more to destroy race relations in this country than anything since Reconstruction. So I didn't participate in any of that. And I had probably 8 different resident assistants working under me in that building. And one of them came up to me and he said, why are you not, I was in my office at the resident hall during the Obama campaign events. And he came into my office and he said, why are you not participating in the events today? I said, well, because I don't want this man to be president. And he said, well, let's talk about that. I said, well, no, I don't think we need to talk about that, because you're immediately going to interpret it in a way that's not appropriate. And so he wouldn't shut up. I tried to leave the office. He followed me into the lobby of the building, the resident hall building. He followed me into the lobby and he started asking me questions. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And so he wanted to engage in an argument. And so I took him up on the offer. Now, I was 22. I should not have, I wouldn't have done it now, but because it's futile. It's a waste of time. And so he started engaging me in argument in a very public area, the lobby, where everybody has to come in and out of that building. And so within about 20 minutes, I had a crowd of people around me wanting to know my answers to this highly liberal person. And what eventually happened is I was called the next morning by the director of the Department of Residence, Life, and Housing and asked to come to the office. And they said, you got two options. You can either be fired or you can resign, because you have created division in the building where you are the director. I said, well, I will gladly resign. And that morning, before I got that call, I had an apartment in the building. That's part of the deal when you got the job. And the whole reason I was there was to finish a master's degree in history. That's the whole reason I was there. And so I opened the front door, and somebody placed a Bible down on the step of my front door with a note on it that said, "Practice what you preach." And then I go to my office, and there's a poster signed by probably 50 or 60 people who were students at the College of Charleston. And they made little quotes on this huge poster that they had in front of my office door. They taped it on the office door. They put little sayings down, little quotes, and they signed their names under it. One person said, "I am practicing homosexual and I'm glad to be here," and they signed their names. That was the kind of rhetoric that the whole poster included. 2008 now, far, far before George Floyd, far before any of the political debacles we've been dealing with over the past 10 years. And so I resigned, and it made the news. There was a campus newspaper at the time, and they wrote an article about my resigning from the Department of Residence, Life, and Housing, and the title was "Racist Fired from the Department of Residence, Life, and Housing." And it also made news on the local television networks. This is not anything new. The cancel culture crap started a long time ago, and the left has been using it to their benefit. You know, I actually submitted withdrawal papers in 2008, first term in graduate school. I submitted withdrawal papers to the university. I said, I don't want to do this. I will not continue to seek a graduate education in a place like this. And it's only because of a couple of history professors that I had at the time convincing me otherwise that I stayed on. And the one statement that one person made, who was a history professor of mine at the College of Charleston, he said, if you do not pursue a graduate education and become a historian, it will be a loss to the profession. It will be a loss to the profession. That's the statement that convinced me to stay the course. I finished that degree. They told me I had to leave the campus. I couldn't live there anymore. I was, of course, fired. And so for several months after that, I would walk across the College of Charleston campus, and I would receive comments from people who would say, "Oh, you're that guy. You're that racist. You're that racist. You're that guy who didn't go to the Obama rally and who tried to engage somebody in public discourse." I willingly did so. And I willingly engaged an opponent in a public environment, but nobody wanted to listen. There was nobody there who wanted to listen. So why does all this matter? Well, it matters for a couple of reasons. First of all, when I tell you that I know what I'm talking about and that cancel culture is very, very real and I've been dealing with it for a long time, believe me when I'm telling you that. Even before cancel culture was called cancel culture, people have been trying to cancel me. went to Mississippi State, got a doctorate. I've got all the credentials I need. But that doesn't matter. The reason why we're having a great amount of political violence in this country is because of the American university system. I could tell you story after story after story of times that I have tried to engage professors and students in classroom situations, and it never gets anywhere because they are utterly convinced by the time they go to college that they can do whatever they want to do. American university students are now convinced, for the most part, not everybody, but many of them, the vast majority of American university students, by the time they go to college, they're already convinced that relativism, progressivism, liberalism, multiculturalism, atheism, agnosticism, these are viable alternatives that have to be protected, and they demand that we respect and celebrate these worldviews as conservatives. They demand it. When you're 18, 20, 22, 25 years old, you want to be a part of something bigger than yourselves. You're an ideologue. You don't understand patriotism or traditionalism unless you were raised in a home that taught you those things. Very few Americans are now taught traditional Christian values as children anymore. It begins in the home. That's why my kids do not go to public school, and they will never go to public school. I will not encourage my children to go to university, but if they want to, I will gladly try to help them find one that's not been compromised. The amount of evil that happens in American universities and American colleges is profoundly significant. Any worldview, any way of life is promoted, except that of tradition, except that of Christianity. When I was teaching at Mississippi State, another little story for you. I was doing my coursework at Mississippi State from 2010 to 2013. Did my comprehensive exams in 2013. And as a part of the PhD program, and this is common throughout most PhD programs in universities, particularly state-funded universities, you're given a job by the department, and they want the graduate students, particularly PhD students, to teach as the instructor of record the lower-end basic history classes that most everybody has to take. You know, History 101, 102. American history, Western civilization, but it's not called Western civilization anymore because, my God, Lord help us if we use the word civilized in an American university. And so the last semester I taught at Mississippi State, I was giving a lecture the day before we stopped for for Easter break. The last class before Easter break. And I tell the students, 300 students in the auditorium, I tell the students, have a happy Easter. Enjoy your Easter. And there was a lesbian member of the history faculty sitting outside the door of the classroom. And she heard me say that. She was monitoring me because I had already developed a reputation as a conservative Christian in that particular history department. She was monitoring what I was saying. And she immediately went to the chair of the history department and reported me for mentioning the word Easter and wishing the students a happy Easter. And so I was called into the history department chair's office within 2 or 3 hours of doing that. And he said, you can't say that. We have to, as an American university, respect any and all traditions. We have to respect and admire any and all traditions. And he admitted that my tradition was in the unfortunate position of not being able to be celebrated. In other words, very Southern, very Christian, very conservative. And so what I told him immediately is that I resign from any involvement working with you. And I left Mississippi State University. I'd finished my coursework. I left Mississippi State University and I went back to South Carolina to my family and helped take care of my grandparents and was there when the day they died. Those were golden moments. Long story about why I decided to do that. But I left Mississippi State. I said, I'll write my dissertation somewhere else. I won't stay here. I will not do this anymore. And so I went back home and had some golden years. I had probably 2 or 3 years with my grandpa. That was worth far more to me than continuing to deal with the liberal bullshit at Mississippi State University and their history department. That's just my story, and that's only a fraction of the stuff that I've had to put up with in the American university system. It is only by the grace of God that I ever finished the doctorate in the first place, because the opposition to it was immensely powerful. But I did it, and I'm proud of it. And I don't take any crap off of nobody when it comes to talking about American history, because I've read more books and I know more about it than most people who are teaching American history in our American so-called university system. So where does all this come from? The people who are interested in killing conservatives and killing Christians in the United States now, they are bred by American public universities. It's a breeding ground for secular humanism, a breeding ground for modern American liberalism. I had a good friend of mine years ago tell me that the only way to solve this is to shut down the university systems, fumigate them, and then open them up under new management. That's what needs to happen. Shut them down, remove all funding, fumigate the place, and then reopen them under new, better, more sophisticated, more educated management. May God have mercy on us all. This is Alan Harrelson with the Pipe Cottage. Thank you for stopping by.